What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the Bass Pro Shops night race at Bristol Motor Speedway for Saturday night, September 21st, around 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And I love Bristol. There's a reason it's on the wall behind me. It's one of my favorite tracks. 500 laps, playoff round on the line here. Guys like Denny Hamlin, who really need a great race. It should make things pretty interesting. And also, if this happens to be your first time here, which I highly doubt, my name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR DFS each and every single week on this channel. Also post NFL content every single week if you want to check that out. And also gonna give a shout out to last week's comment contest winner, Johnny Mingo, who was the closest to Ross Chastain. I think Chastain led 51 or 52 laps. He guessed 50. He was the closest, and he was the winner. If you want to enter this weekend, all you gotta do is comment down below who you think is gonna lead the most laps and how many, and the winner will get a cash prize. And if you enjoy, make sure you like down below, subscribe to the channel for brand new. Let's dive right into it. All right, the section strategy here for Bristol. It's a very unique track. It's just a small half-mile concrete steep bowl, and there's really nothing else we can compare it to. The only thing you can stretch it to is Dover. I always call Dover's Bristol's bigger brother because it's also a 1 mile oval. I mean, it's obviously different, but it's concrete. You know, it's kind of similar if you look at it. Some of the drivers that perform well at Dover, it does translate over to Bristol, but it's also not a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's, you know, it's a little bit up in the air. Track history is certainly something you can look at this weekend, but we're also getting a pretty long practice session. So we're going to get a ton of good data from that, which is obviously pretty important from what we saw last year, or not last year, earlier in the season with the tires that completely fell apart throughout the entire race, made it very entertaining, but pretty much impossible to project. But based off what I'm seeing in practice right now, because it is going on right now, we are not seeing that, so that's a good sign. And also, Dominator points are massive this weekend. We have 500 laps. So if you're wondering how many Dominator points that is, take 5 times 7, that's 35, add a 0, 350 Dominator points this weekend. So yeah, you're gonna want at least 2 per lineup. And a lot of times, if you can, depending on salary and how these guys qualify, getting that to 3 would be optimal. And finally, moving on to the driver-by-driver breakdown, I have to mention one thing first, and that is, of course, if you want to join the best NASCAR DFS community out there, and I guess now NFL since it's full swing, link is down below in the description or the pinned comment for that. Fairly priced for everything compared to everything else out there. Got projections for both sites, my entire NASCAR model, NFL model too, projections, simulations, the betting sheets, cheat sheets going over cash games, tournaments, obviously the Discord and the optimizer and all that good stuff. If you want to come in, check it out, you want to find it, link will be found down below. And don't forget to check out Stochastic with their NASCAR Sims tool, amongst other sports. It helps you give an edge on Sundays, Saturdays, whenever the slate happens to be, no matter what sport you are playing. You can pre-sim the entire slate to see which lineups stack up the best in tournaments and which drivers or players offer the best ROI before the game starts. All right, so practice and qualifying just ended a few moments ago, and we have a ton of lap data. Some of these guys ran over 100 laps, so basically all you can ask for. And that's one of the reasons we love these short tracks, is because we can kind of have a good idea of who is going to bring speed. Now, practice is never the end-all be-all. Is it a good thing if you are fast in practice? Yes. Does it mean you're going to suck during the race if you are slow? Not every single time. Like, I was looking at some of Denny Hamlin's times, and I don't imagine he's going to be bad in this race, but his practice times would indicate he's outside of the top 20, which I don't really see happening. And you can also kind of look at qualifying speed and practice speed and things like that. But if we head over to the practice sheet here, just to have a good idea, looking at how practice performing, got all the data filled in, which is nice. We don't usually get this. So if we look at the overall lap data, so everybody's laps, I tried to take out the outlier laps as best as I could. Kyle Larson at the top of the list, which shouldn't be a surprise. He is very good here at Bristol. Same with Ryan Blaney. Ty Gibbs has been awesome in a short time. Corey LaJoie was surprising. He did show some speed, so did Justin Haley. And this is where it could kind of be like a bit of an outlier. Like, can they be solid during this race? Yes. Are they going to be top 5 cars? I would say it's unlikely, but they could still have some decent speed. Bell's usually good here at Bristol. And a couple of guys that did surprise me that were further down than I would have expected. Bullocky down there at the bottom in the 66, that is expected. But Keselowski, Truex, Reddick, I mean, they're here at the bottom of the barrel. Same with Chris Buescher. Denny Hamlin's down here somewhere, I believe. Yeah, down here in 22nd overall. So like I said, it's not the end all be all. If you're fast in practice, yes, that's a good thing, but don't completely rule somebody out just because they didn't show the most amount of speed that we did see during Friday's practice session. But we'll start with the 5-figure range here first, which would be William Byron, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin. And the cool thing about this is that we can kind of view them all as similar plays because of where they're starting. And if we look at the 9K range, they're all starting 10th through 25th. So we have the PD range and the 9K range. Then we have the up top potential dominators in this 10K and up spot, which is nice. So we'll start with Denny Hamlin here first. And heading into this race, he was the odds-on favorite by quite a bit. It was plus 400, plus 375 in some places. It's pretty much a win and get in situation for Denny Hamlin. He put himself in a terrible spot through the first 2 weeks. Well, mainly put himself in a terrible spot after the Atlanta race, because his strategy just obviously did not work out well. And then Watkins Glen wasn't really his fault, just kind of caught up in the mess with Ryan Blaney and whoever else it was there at the beginning, kind of shot his day. So obviously the 11 team is pretty much sold out for this race heading into the playoffs. Practice didn't look incredible. It said he said he was pretty happy with his long run speed in an interview I watched. And if you're looking at his Bristol numbers, I mean, he's obviously been incredible. It's only a 3-race sample size here on the concrete since the next gen, but hard to find somebody better than Denny Hamlin. Second most laps led, second most fast laps, second best drive rating, has 2 wins. Only guy he's trailing in some of these marks are his teammate Christopher Bell. So I would say Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, pretty much the top 2 plays of the big dogs up top. Absolutely love them. But Christopher Bell's right there with them. I mean, it's kind of like a 1A, 1B, 1C situation with Hamlin, Larson, and Christopher Bell. William Byron's probably the one I would be the lowest on. Just hasn't really had a track record of being able to dominate here at Bristol in the next gen, and not really one of his best tracks compared to these other guys who are all incredible. So I would really have just a ton of exposure spread out to Bell, Larson, and Hamlin. Then dropping down to the 9K range, bunch of really solid drivers at Bristol, but they do offer some place differentials, so it'll make it pretty interesting for Bills this week, as you wouldn't exactly expect them to be potential dominators, but they have been extremely quick here. So looking at the RFK boys, they're going to project pretty similar. I think if I had to pick, I'd have a slight lean towards Chris Buescher if we're looking at how they performed in practice. Both kind of mid, but I think they'll certainly be better during the actual race. Chris Buescher coming off a nice win last week where he cleanly moved SVG for the win, which was really nice to see. Buescher has dominated here before in the next gen, does have a win as well, but in the top 10 each and every single race. Also 2 top 5s. So, I mean, Buescher, Keselowski, both these guys extremely good here at Bristol. So I would definitely try to get exposure to them. Ryan Blaney, while he has ran well here before, the next gen hasn't been too kind to him. As you can see, his drive rating is just so much further down from a guy like Buescher and Keselowski. Average finish, average running position, way far down as well. And he showed a ton of speed in practice. He was one of the quickest cars overall. So I was expecting a really good qualifying run. Just didn't see that. So I think he's going to be able to move up. I still kind of prefer Keselowski and Buescher over Blaney, despite the practice times. Because Blaney really needed a good qualifying effort, I think, to be able to potentially dominate this race. I do feel a bit better with the RFK guys. Joey Logano, his teammate, I'd expect probably a similar performance. He has ran pretty well here at Bristol in the past, but similar to Blaney in the next gen, the numbers just aren't really quite adding up as much. So for me, RFK over Penske in this range. And Chase Elliott, I think he's a little bit kind of off in the pricing. I know he's been really good at Bristol overall in his career, and even in next gen, he's still been pretty solid compared to Blaney and Joey Logano. Much better average running position, much better average finish. 3 top 10s in 3 races. He's going to be qualifying in the top 10, and all the Hendrick cars showed a ton of speed in qualifying. So I think at this price point, he's a pretty nice tournament play, because obviously people are going to flock to the place differential drivers in this 9K range. So I do like the pivot to Chase Elliott. Going down to the 8K guys, Kyle Busch at $8,800, really cheap on FanDuel. He's going to be starting in 29th. Back in the day, he used to be an absolute dog here at Bristol. That has certainly faded a bit since we've gotten to the next gen with a running position of 21st and only 1 top 20 finish to show for it. We're talking a small sample size here, but it wasn't that fast in practice either. I'm going to personally prefer some of these 9K drivers over Kyle Busch more, and then I really like Ty Gibbs right below him. So starting in 29th, like, you're going to get some exposure to him, but I'm not running to play him like I would back in the day if he was this price starting in 29th here at Bristol. Ty Gibbs dominated here last year. Obviously was good earlier in the season, but the drivers are saying it doesn't feel the same as it did in the spring, which I guess is probably a good thing for us. I know Alex Bowman said it felt like, I believe, the 2023 spring race is, I guess, how the tire felt, which obviously worked out well for him with him being on the pole. But Ty Gibbs should have speed. I think he's a really strong turnip play. On FanDuel, a little bit tougher to get to him at $12,000, but on DraftKings at $8,700, kind of easy to get there. Like, you can play 2 of these 10K drivers and fit in Ty Gibbs with no problem on this slate. Tyler Reddick, I don't mind. I do prefer Ty Gibbs more. Had a little bit more success here in the next gen. Both obviously in really good equipment, but slight preference to Ty Gibbs personally. Martin Truex Jr. is extremely cheap. He has a terrible track record here at Bristol. Finished well in the spring, just being able to conserve his tires, which is obviously something that will aid Martin Truex, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be much of an issue this time around. If we're looking at practice, it wasn't that great. I don't think it's likely he dominates, but since he's a potential dominator at $8,400 and it's Martin Truex Jr. in a JGR ride, like, yes, I had to have some exposure on DraftKings. Better play on DK definitely compared to FanDuel. Josh Berry in 25th. He's a fine PD play. We only have a 1 race sample size here in the next gen, but not great in practice, not great in qualifying. I don't think there's a ton of upside, especially $8,200. Like, I would much rather take the potential 100-point upside with Martin Truex rather than Josh Berry, personally. On FanDuel, though, I mean, massive price difference compared to DraftKings, where it's only $200 and it's pretty much $3,000 over on FanDuel. Arash Chastain starting in 12th. I think he probably runs around that 8th to 12th range for the majority of the day. So I won't rule him out for a play. I'm not really super excited about it. 7K range, Chase Briscoe. See, my initial thought is to say I don't want to play Chase Briscoe starting in 5th. I said something similar to Darlington, then he ends up winning the race. I mean, his Bristol numbers aren't amazing. Like, he's a top 15 driver, but starting in 5th, I mean, unless he's able to stay in the top 8 and get fast laps, it can work out for tournaments. But, I mean, personally, I think I'd rather play like a Chastain right above him, but not in love with it. Like, Alex Bowman makes more sense to me over Chase Briscoe. He's $7,600. He's in a Hendrick car. Obviously, all the Hendrick cars look amazing. Kyle Larson qualified 2nd. I'm pretty sure William Byron qualified 3rd. Hopefully they don't bully him out of the way. Maybe they can let him set sail for stage 1. But Alex Bowman's really good at Dover, which is a somewhat similar track, but starting at the pole for a track that has 500 laps. Like, yeah, he can really nail down some dominator points. So Alex Bowman's firmly in play, whether it's cash games or tournaments, I would say. And obviously had some decent speed and practice too in the long run. Wasn't great in the 5 and 10 lap, but everything else was pretty good. But Wallace, $7,500. He's starting in 11th. Don't think I'm super excited about this play. I'd rather play Alex Bowman. I think the ceiling's much higher. I really doubt we'd see Bubba Wallace get up front at any point. Alex Bowman's got the best opportunity to lead some laps. Obviously, he has the best pit stall too. So, not a big fan of Bubba Wallace here. Not a huge fan of Michael McDowell. Now, the plus side of starting in the front half of the field at Bristol is if this goes green in stage 1, your chances of going a lap down obviously subside a bit, starting closer to the front. So that's like the one benefit. Like, projection wise, I feel like Cindric will project better than Michael McDowell in this slate, but he also starts further back, which does put you in a bit of a hole. So Cindric probably feels safer for cash games with that starting position. Guys like AJ Allmendinger and Michael McDowell are certainly fine pivots. Also, Allmendinger does have a top 10 finish here at Bristol next gen. 6K range, I could see people flocking to Suarez, but I would be careful about that. He obviously did not show a ton of speed whatsoever in qualifying, and if we're looking at his practice numbers, they weren't super impressive either. Pulling him up here, pretty much straight 30s, 35 throughout the entire time. And I believe in the 30 lap, only 30 guys are in the 30 lap, so he was second slowest on that, only ahead of Kaz Grala and I believe, Martin Truex Jr., which I'm not 100% sure how reliable that is. But yeah, Daniel Suarez is just plain slow. I assume he's going to be going a lap down, so I think he could be a bit of a trap play on FanDuel. I would be really concerned about that because finishing position is pretty important over there. On DraftKings, you might be able to get away with it if he finishes like 26th. But based off speed alone, I would expect him to go a lap down and really struggle for the majority of the day. Carson Hocevar, like, as crazy as it sounds, I think I would rather go with Hocevar here, especially in tournaments starting in 7th. We have legit top 15 potential here. Showed a lot more speed in practice. I can rock with it. Noah Gragson, $6,600 starting in 16th. Just not really someone that stands out. Like, I feel like he just won't be owned, and I probably won't be playing him. Johanner Nemechek seems a tad expensive. I wish he was a little bit cheaper starting in 28th. Not a lot of interest there. Same with Ryan Preece. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Eric Jones are guys that I probably will end up getting to. I could see these guys being the chalky 6K plays. Stenhouse and Jones both have actually been somewhat decent here in the past. If we're looking at next gen specifically, Stenhouse average running position 22nd, Eric Jones in 20th, which is that amazing? No, but at these price points and for where they're starting, yeah, they're going to be able to pick up some PD. And I can save about $500-ish from Daniel Suarez, and I think they'll be slightly faster. But I definitely don't mind them down low, especially in cash games. Corey LaJoie, man, I want to rule him out, but similar to Carson Hocevar, looks like some of these Spire cars have some speed. But LaJoie is a loose cannon. He's going to hit everything but the pace car probably during this race. I have a really hard time trusting him starting in 9th despite the speed. If you're looking at his Bristol numbers, usually right around 20th place. I think it's very likely he moves back. Could he luck box into a top 5 finish? Yes, but that would probably be an extreme luck box. Need a lot of yellows near the end of the race and just things to go his way. Austin Dillon, similar numbers, a little bit worse, but he also starts 21 spots further back. No, obviously a little bit easier to get to him, but the speed was not even close. Like similar to Daniel Suarez, very likely he goes a lap down early on. Do really do prefer the Stenhouse and Eric Jones plays. As far as the 5K range is concerned, I actually don't hate some of these guys. Todd Gillen and Justin Haley, both drivers that we know present top 20 upside basically weekly. And practice numbers are pretty solid, almost top 15 across the board. If we look at their Bristol numbers, usually borderline top 20. Like I think these are better plays than Austin Dillon, probably better plays than Daniel Suarez or LaJoy. I think Gillen and Haley are excellent 5K plays if we're hunting for salary, which we probably will this week because you're probably trying to jam in three of these drivers up top at the least. So yeah, Gillen and Haley makes sense. Harrison Burton, Zane Smith, these guys are all just slow that I expect to basically be in the back the entire time. And while Burton did have some solid practice numbers, I really don't think that's going to translate to the race too much. But if I have to pick one outside of Gillen and Haley, it would be Harrison Burton. But with that being said, that's all I got for today's video. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, make sure you like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. If you want to check out all the extra content over on Patreon, you want to find it. Link can be found down below. Don't forget to enter the comment contest. Who you think is going to lead the most laps and how many, and the winner will end up getting a cash prize. Check out the odd info content if you haven't yet done so. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.